The funny part is that the more you give to other people without really trying to get for yourself, the more that comes back to you organically anyway without you really having to try. And that's something I think if most salespeople understood that, the power of giving in order to get, you give first, you will get organically.
Overpressure refers to the sudden increase in pressure above the surroundings caused by the wave generated when something explodes. It propagates outward from the origin, capable of causing impact, momentum, or disruption, depending on its intensity and distance. It is a critical factor in assessing the effects of a mission. Welcome to the Overpressure podcast, where we dive into the explosive world of business for entrepreneurs who are vets or veteran entrepreneurs. Hey there, everybody. I want to welcome you to the Overpressure podcast and introduce you to Eli Marcus. He's done advertising, seminars, and now hosts the Motivation Show. I want you to enjoy this conversation between myself and Eli. Welcome, everybody, to the Overpressure podcast. We have Eli here joining us, host of the Motivational podcast, right?
The Motivation Show, and I'm happy to be with you, Austin, and we're going to rock and roll, and we're going to hopefully learn, and we're going to teach.
The first question that I want to ask is, what really brought you into the world of podcasting? I know you have a marketing background, but what was that transition like?
Well, one time I had the largest adult education seminar company in the world, where I flew in all the great book authors and a lot of celebrities, and even produced Michael Jackson at Carnegie Hall. And that was back in the late 1990s, early 2000s. 9/11 hit, kind of gave me a signal that maybe it's time to slow down. Always had that self-help bug within me. And I said, how can I do this without running 750 events a year? And voila, a podcast, a lot simpler.
Yeah. Who do you think the coolest person or coolest experience that you had while you were running the center, correct? That was that experience?
Well, my mentor is a gentleman by the name of Dr. Dennis Waitley, who just passed on, but he wrote about 18 different books, and his signature book was called The Psychology of Winning, which at the time and when he put it out was the #1 best-selling audio cassette program on self-help in history. Did like $100 million in sales, and teaches you how to be a winner. And who doesn't want to be a winner in life?
Yeah, we actually, I think, just pulled out one of his books, something to do with persuasion. Is that on that list?
Sounds like one of the 18.
Yeah. I'll have to really dig into that now. That's really cool. So he was your mentor. How important was that to you as you were developing in the event space and putting all of these amazing shows together, if that's what you even called them?
Well, everything I think starts in the mind. I think we all have an equal slate when we get born, and it's just how we choose to program our mind, and once we can get our minds attuned, we can accomplish anything. We don't have to be the smartest, prettiest, most handsomest, wealthiest. We just have to have a solid mind. So that's why his book was called The Psychology of Winning, because all of life is a psychology.
Well, yeah, one of the things I've been diving into is winning across the board in every area of life. And one of our mentors actually suggested a book for me. But what does winning look like in every area of life for you?
Well, winning to me is quality collaborations, people that you really get along with, people that you like, people that you want to uplift. And I just had this conversation with another person who was a guest on my podcast, and I get great thrills out of helping people and endorsing people. I use the word endorsement because it's not used that often except when there's an agenda and there's some sort of pay. But when I'm talking about endorsement, I'm just talking about endorsing people because I like them and I want to see them succeed. And the funny part is that the more you give to other people without really trying to get for yourself, the more that comes back to you organically anyway without you really having to try. And that's something I think if most salespeople understood that, the power of giving in order to get, you give first, you will get organically.
Absolutely. You mentioned the sales thing. Another thing that I saw kind of in your background was just grinding door to door. And that's really where you cut your teeth. How has that experience of learning how to take no 9 times out of 10, if not more, uh, really developed or really held through your career and helped you continue winning?
Well, I believe arguably that I may have been given more no's than any man in history, over 30,000 of them. So I've made over
Okay.
30,000 cold calls. And I certainly learned one fact: don't spend your life cold calling. I can tell you that. There's easier ways to do it, particularly today. That was back in the day. I still think that cold calling has its purpose, but I wouldn't rely on it. I'd rely more on AI and other tools that you have. And that's really we only have so many hours in a day. Most of us 16 hours awake. So we have to figure out systems in order to really be successful. And I certainly believe in elbow grease, but I believe that you need your 8 hours of sleep and you need your balance. So you need to have other things working on your behalf. So for me, every time I got a no, I celebrated it because I looked at it as I had the gumption to actually make the effort. And
Hmm.
I celebrate effort. I don't necessarily feel like I have to have a result every time I do something. And that's why I was able to continue to go on and persevere despite all the no's.
That's an incredible perspective of more or less saying you're winning by the actions that you're taking. You mentioned sleep there, and I value it as well. What are some of your hacks for sleep and making sure that you get a good rest?
Well, everybody needs to have a pitch dark room. That starts right there because, that helps the melatonin factor work for you. And you need to have a cool air conditioned sort of like room because, most people really, I think need to be like under 60 degrees in their room, or at least something they can tolerate. That helps you sleep better. And certainly, obviously, no caffeine after 3 o'clock.
Yeah, I'm guilty
um,
of that one.
and for me, I like to just do something that I have a passion for, which is reading. I like to read before I go to bed, and it just conks me right out.
Okay, that's fair. Um, what do you like to read in that time frame? Is it self help or is it going other directions?
I keep fantasizing about reading fiction. I always wanted to read one of those Robert Ludlum long novels, but I'm a lifelong sort of learner, so it's always something I don't know, or something I need to hear 1,000 times. It's funny. Human beings often have the answers in front of them. They go out and seek it, right? Oh, where's the secret? What's the secret to success? And it's right in front of them. It's just that a lot of us, we're stubborn and we just don't realize that we already have the answer. Sometimes it takes 1,000 times to hear it. Sometimes it takes the right circumstance, the right environment, and the right person to deliver that message before it finally sinks in.
Yeah, and not to mention, we forget constantly. You've been doing this longer than I've been alive, so I imagine you've forgotten more about marketing and mindset than I have ever learned yet. So, but let's lead that into what are you doing now? How are you applying this skill to? Obviously, you're doing your show. What else are you working on?
Well, again, I continue to work on collaborations. I'm collaborating with you right now, whether you realize it or not, or you want to or not, but hopefully you do. And my goal on this show here is to figure out a way to uplift you personally, Austin. I'd like to see you succeed more and more. And the more you succeed, hopefully, the more we succeed together. Because again, I like to look at it as an organic process. If there's ways that I can help get the word out about what you're doing, what you're trying to achieve, organically, you're going to come back and without me having to ask you, and figure out what you can do to help make my life better. So I'm not motivated by how much money I could make or what a big star I can be. I'm motivated by trying to figure out how I could make quality connections, be kind, do the right thing by people, help uplift them, and pay it forward. All those really cliched, wonderful things that we hear about. we know about, but we don't do it. How many of us know about pay it forward? That was a big thing a decade or two ago.
Right.
That was a big movie. And yet, how many of us really pay things forward? We really need to be reminded of how important that is.
Yeah. It sounds like there's some principles in there. Can you go into kind of what some of the principles that have guided you on your journey are?
Well, I like to think that God is watching me all the time, and so, we think that we're getting over on people, or we're getting over on ourselves, or getting over on the world. We're not paying our bus fare or our train fare. That's if you live in New York City. You can tell I'm a New Yorker by saying that, right? Because people don't pay their fare in New York City, and they think they're getting over and they're getting smart, and they save themselves a few bucks. But at what price? What price, what universal price are you going to pay? If God is watching you all the time. If you're a God-fearing person, you're a God-loving person, but you're disappointing God all the time, well, God may forgive you, but are you really going to forgive yourself years later when you realize, look at all these things that you didn't do, by the book, and things that you didn't do that uplifted other people and did the right thing. Because sometimes people look at an institution, oh, it's the Metropolitan Transit Authority, big deal, so they're not going to miss my $3. But if everybody thought that way, the system would collapse.
Right. Wow. I kind of relate it to what we talk about with our business of it's awesome to make money, but like do good while you're doing that. And since you can do both, why wouldn't you? And there's a mental burden when you're not doing that, when you're just in it for yourself. So we always try and create win-win-wins. And it sounds like you're of the same mindset that like providing that value, helping other people win, helping them along the way, helping give them guidance and advice so that they can move forward. That sounds like a huge part of your philosophy. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say that, I'm proud of you. I'm here for you. You asked me before we got on here, what you can promote for me. And I really didn't give you much to promote because it's really not about me, in my opinion. I'm here to uplift both of us, and have us both pay things forward and have us both make the world a better place. But I find more joy in seeing your progress than even in my own progress, because my progress will come. And if everybody thought about everybody else first, think about a better world it would be. Like if a mother doesn't think about her kids first, how's the kid going to grow up? What's going to happen to that kid's mindset? So the mother is always nurturing the kid. So why aren't we nurturing each other? In the Bible, it says, love thy neighbor as thyself. Now, I haven't met anybody that actually loves thy neighbor as thyself. It's in the Bible. We all go to our churches, our synagogues, and our mosques. So I'm saying if that's too difficult for you to do, to love thy neighbor as thyself, but how about just uplifting your neighbor?
Yeah.
Start there.
I think we have to start even before that we have to know our neighbors. There's been this massive breakdown, a much more transitory population. Like you've seen this over the course of your life of, everybody knew every neighbor to now, we've only been in our house for a couple of months, but, I know like 2 neighbors out of 15. So what are some steps do you think we can take as a society to really build that sense of community again, to build unity so that everybody's winning?
Well, I think people need to judge each other far less. I think people make a lot of assumptions and are always judging people. And I think you give people a hall pass and give people the benefit of the doubt. If you give people the benefit of the doubt, you're going to be more friendly towards them. So, when you're reluctant to go up and say hello to somebody or knock on the door, like, in the old movies, so the neighbors would always knock on the door and bring a pie. That doesn't happen anymore, because everybody's suspicious and doubtful and mistrusting and making assumptions. Oh, they don't want me to come over, or they're this or they're that. Drop all that stuff and just be a human being. and let things flow naturally and organically. And don't think about yourself. Think about them first, and just go and just do it. Like Nike says, just do it.
That is,
We're so stuck in an analysis paralysis. Just do it.
yeah, that's what I was talking to somebody earlier, and they asked, like, what advice would you give entrepreneurs who are transitioning from the military? Because that's my background. And I said, just do it. Like, don't worry about all the other stuff. Just
don't overthink it, and don't worry
Yeah.
about the results, because if you're caught up in the results, you haven't even started yet. Like, let it all just unfold. Let life unfold. Like, we don't know how our life's going to be 10 years from now. We're never going to be here 10 years from now.
Right.
Don't get so, embroiled in, what's going to happen at the end. Just take the moment. That's all you've got. And let the moments keep unfolding. Have the right attitude, have the right goal, be there, have a motive that lifts other people. And, the universe will figure out a way to conspire to help you to get where you need to get to without you stressing it.
Well, you've had the opportunity to learn from some incredible people. And I know one of the topics, of course, had to have been goal setting. So how have you developed a system for goal setting so that you at least identify where you do want to go so that you can then manifest it, whatever you want to call it, ask and you shall receive? How do you go about goal setting?
Well, I think everybody should have a journal and journal literally every day their thoughts, because the things that you put into writing are more concreted. Things that you keep in your head, they're fleeting. Things that you put on a piece of paper are there for a lifetime. So I think it's important to go back and look at your notes and see what you put down on paper. And sometimes goals are a moving target. Sometimes they evolve, and you need to be able to continue to continue to write those thoughts down on paper, because the things that you write on paper, science shows that they will manifest far more than if you just keep it in your head. And some people think, oh, I got this great memory, it's all up here. No, doesn't work that way. Things that you put down on paper. That's why vision boards are important. People create vision boards. I knew this person who created a vision board when he was 8 years old, and he wanted to go into the NFL, and he wanted to play on both sides of the ball. He wanted to be offense and he wanted to be defense. He was a small guy. He ended up being a great defensive back, but all the odds were against him in many ways that we don't have the time to get into. But he had the vision board, and he kept looking at the vision board every day of his life, and he kept believing in the vision board. So vision boards are very powerful. Very few people have them.
Yeah. We are actually in the process of updating ours, and the photo behind me is literally a giant vision board to remind me all the time. But I need to get back into the habit of writing it down, because so much of our life is digital now. And so I do have notes all over the place, or spreadsheets or databases of goals and all that. But like just the act of writing it down over a cup of coffee for me is so powerful.
It's also accountability, because when you keep reading it, you realize, okay, when am I going to live up to what I've been writing all these years?
Yeah. You go back to take a note later and you see the list, and I need
still there. I got to get it off. I got to get it off that, it's bugging the hell out of me. It's still on that list. The bucket list isn't whittling down. I still got 100 things on that bucket list.
Yeah. What are some other things that, we've adapted to tech so much? What are some either things that, are useful on that side, or that we should really go back to maybe old systems because they are powerful, like writing notes down?
Yeah, I think we should adapt to both. I think everything has its positive, everything has its negative. There's just nothing like the human touch at the end of the day, because people are in a position to either bring you along into a better world, or choose not to. So there's still nothing like that golf course. Twosome, getting out there and playing with each other, or getting on a Zoom call, or something that is almost unheard of today, which is getting on a phone. It's like, I can't get anybody on a phone anymore. Everybody wants to text, email, and sometimes I do, but there's just nothing like that old fashioned phone call, and nothing even better than getting in front of somebody and just breaking some bread, having the old coffee. So AI is fantastic and it has its use. It's going to save you a lot of time, but it's still never going to replace the one-on-one, mano-on-mano, in-person relationship building.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking about, is like that type of action builds a relationship so much more than just sending an email or a text. There's a different feel to it. So a huge part of our business is building relationships. So what do you think people can do today with tech, with the different environment, with people being hesitant to even talk to their neighbors? What can they do to really build those relationships in a real way?
I think people are just reluctant to communicate. And when they do, they're narrow casted in their communication. Everything is email. Some people just prefer email. Some people just prefer text. But if you really want to connect with somebody, the number one thing is get that cup of coffee. Just get in front of them. Go to the ball game. Whatever it is. But stay in touch. The other thing is to really understand what is it that makes the other person tick. Take an interest. What is it that they're interested in? Are they interested in a certain charity? Are they interested in a certain ball club? Take an interest in their world and ask them questions about it, because people want to. People. Let's face it. We all have things that fascinate us, and when someone else takes an interest in that, we take more of an interest in them. It's just natural. So you should just stop trying to always get people to hear what you have to say. God gave us two, ears and one mouth for a reason.
I love that line. What are you interested in that people don't necessarily know about?
Great question. Well, I have things on my bucket list. I've achieved a lot of stuff, and there's a lot of stuff that I haven't achieved. I want to get in a film. I want to get on TV, and I'm going to make that happen. I don't care and it's not about money. I don't even care if I get paid. I just want to have that experience to say I did it. And that's a lot of how I run my life is I don't really care how much I get paid. I'll take the money if you want to pay me.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll give it to charity. Maybe I'll spend it on a car. I don't know what I'm going to do with it. But my overriding goal, my number one goal, is the achievement of that. And what I want to do is not look back on my life and have regrets, because most people's dreams end up, I hate to say it, Austin, in the graveyard. That's where they end up. So a life fulfilled for me, a successful life for me, would be to look back and say, I can't think of too many things in my life that I didn't do that I wanted to do.
Mm. Right. So I guess what's left on the bucket list, like if you have an intention,
get on a film and get in. And, I'd like to have a radio show. I'd like to get more of that terrestrial radio show. Maybe, Howard Stern is leaving, so maybe there's somebody that can step in his shoes. I don't know.
What market are you in? I know you're in Florida.
Well, I'm in South Florida, and I still have the connection in New York. But more of my roots these days are in South Florida.
Well, we definitely deal with media a lot, so I'll keep an ear out and see if we can set that up.
Don't you think that a radio station should have more positive stuff? Right? It's all either music, which is great, but everything, every station can't be music, and a lot of the other talk is all politics.
As soon as I hear somebody on the radio talking, I just switch channels. I'm like, there's nothing that I need to hear here, which is one of the early lessons I learned business-wise was to try and, as much as possible, control your thoughts through controlling the inputs that are going in. So we've already talked about you reading. What are some other inputs that help you, stay in the correct mindset, so that you don't go down the loops and spirals of self-destruction path?
The Beatles and others put it pretty succinctly. All you need is love. In the end of the day, what really counts, it's really about being loved and to love others and be kind. There's really everything else just flows from there. Don't take for granted the things that really matter most. Don't take for granted your family. Don't take for granted your pets. Treat your pets like, they're everything. They deserve that. You're in control. You have 100% control over your pets, and God's given you that power. Don't abuse that power, So some people, think that they're going to go on forever. Say thank you more, be more gracious, open up doors more, do all the gentlemanly things that you should be doing. We're taking that for granted, in the old days, people would open up a door. How often do you see somebody open up a door now for somebody, you know?
I mean, I see myself all the time, but I don't see it hardly at all.
Be a good person, it doesn't take that much effort, don't just go to church, synagogue, or mosque and then come out there and, and then say nasty political things about somebody, what are you learning then, So, I think it's also important to give people, like I said before, give people a little bit more benefit of the doubt. If something doesn't happen your way or you think somebody's done something, give them a call and say, listen, John, I really respect and like you. There's something that's on my mind. I just wanted to discuss it with you. Would you mind? Say it in a kind way and have that open discussion rather than, behind their back calling them a rat fink and, or hey, I'm never going to talk to them again and assuming that they're the worst person in the world. You never know what's going on in their world. Give them a chance to apologize if it's necessary or to give you, a legitimate reason why it is the way it is. Break your assumptions.
The rat really got me. It's very New York. So we've been talking a lot about the positive side, but there is a huge negative side in business, in life. There's negative inputs all around us, which leads to stress. And I think the world is overstressed. But can you go into kind of how you handle that stress? How do you manage it? Any tips for people listening?
Yeah, I just have stopped to put so much emphasis on the bottom line. We're a bottom line society. Think about the average sales force. It's all, you're not even a person. You're basically a number. You're a goal. You're a quota. This is your quota. The word quota in sales is like a monster because think about if you just short of a quota and you're in front of somebody and maybe the person that you're doing in front of shouldn't even do business with you, but you're going to talk them into it anyway because you got to meet that quota. And if you don't think that happens every single day, it's kind of monstrous. So for me, it's whatever happens, happens. When I get on this show today, I have no preconceived notions of what the end result's going to be. I'm just going to let it flow. I'm going to do the right thing. I'm going to say the right thing. I'm going to have the right energy. And if something good happens, I'm blessed. If something great doesn't happen, I tried and I celebrate it because I've prepared, I've done everything I'm supposed to do. And I can't get caught up in things that I can't control. I can't control the politics. I can't control the environment. I can't control certain things. I can control me.
Absolutely. Can you give us an example of when something blew up in your life and how you handled it?
Well, there are times when I haven't handled things as well as I could, and I had to have a 20/20 hindsight look at it and realize why. My God, I overreacted. And so I try the best that I can not to overreact. One best thing you can do is never react for the moment. Even if somebody does something you think is pretty dastardly. I know it's hard not to react at the moment, but don't forget whatever words come out of your mouth are permanent damage. So it's good to, as much as possible, to reflect. Somebody sends you an email, and believe me, I've gotten nasty emails. I've gotten people say nasty things to me for no good reason. And I wanted to lash right back out of them and show them how tough New Yorker I am, beat my chest like King Kong. But the best results I get is when I give it a day, even 2 days, to reflect, think about it, and react without the emotion. Because the emotion of the moment you can never take back. And I know relationships that are dead, even family, because somebody said something in the heat of the moment that they didn't even mean, but they can't take it back.
Yeah, and that's a very fascinating thing because you're from New York, which is always slated as this super fast-paced environment where you have to react, and that mentality can be so destructive.
You think that you have to react,
Yeah.
you think you have to, move 100 miles an hour. It's a mindset. It's a collective mindset. Here we are talking about the New York mindset, which is very common. People think about New York in that way, but you don't have to be one of those New Yorkers. You can choose to be one of those New Yorkers. You don't have to be. You don't have to walk 100 miles an hour down the street frantically all the time.
Yeah, I think it's also a part of the cycle of society of we go from work-life balance to hustle and back and forth, and there's these cycles that happen. We're being frank, we're probably in kind of a weird one right now, because of so many reasons. But where do you think we're headed as a society? What do you think is important to give awareness to as we move forward?
Well, I wish we all realized first that we're all human beings, all having, similar experience in life. We're all going to be here for a short period of time to try to do hopefully some good things, and to realize that, that half the world, because they have another belief, they're not your enemies. And I think that we get caught up in a point of view that it's often built because we've watched something on TV over and over again. And so when you watch the same channel and the same points of view over and over again, even if it's false, you believe it as fact. And then not only you believe it as fact, but you get highly emotional about it. And if you get really emotional about it, you do some really stupid things. So I think we need to cool down a little bit and not judge people because of their thoughts and because they're not perfect. We're all imperfect at the end of the day.
Yeah, absolutely. Haven't met a perfect person yet. I guess when you're looking at yourself, kind of bringing it back full circle to self-help and development, how do you identify what you want to work on?
I think the things that I want to work on are things that I'm passionate about, things that move things in a direction that don't just benefit myself. I think it's a very lonely person who thinks about what they can stuff in their pocket. I think it's the best thing is when not only you're uplifted, but you can bring other people up on your wings. I think there was a Bette Midler song, right? about the wings, right? And that's really what I think motivates me is how does it benefit my family? How does it benefit my friends? How does it benefit the universe? And I'm just a little corpuscle, that God sent to this earth to just try to make things just a little bit better. That's how I see it, and that's my mission here. Is what can I do to contribute? Um, so if it's to make one person's life better, so be it. If I can influence 1 million people, so be it. But I'm not going to do anything that's uncharacteristic or unkind so that I have a bigger audience. Everything I'm going to do is going to happen organically. That's how and I use that word a lot because I've been the guy to do all those cold calls. I've been the guy to push. I've been the guy, who was aggressive and then I went from aggressive to a better word, assertive. It's a much better word. Nobody wants to be thought of as aggressive. And I never want to be in a position to have to be aggressive. Assertive is perfectly fine. We have to assert ourselves sometimes to move things forward, get things done. And sometimes it's the best interest of everybody. But let things just unfold more organically. Stop pushing and stop worrying about the end result and having to have everything. You're never going to have everything. There was a book written, Having It All. What does that even mean? You can't really have it all. You can't have everything. You can't have every car and every house and everything. You just can't have it all. But have the things that really matter most. And that's what you should write down and decide what's your top 10 list, what's your top 15 list. What are the things that really count? The things really count. Yes, they do to some degree. It's good to have some good things, but what counts most?
Quality. is how we normally say it in our household. Um, yeah, we've talked about value, and like I think sales has definitely moved that direction culturally of trying to provide as much value as possible. And, that's what we do internally is try and provide value. I think we talked about that earlier. But is there any additional value before we sign out that you want to provide?
Yeah, and you're talking about value, and of course, you've heard the old adage, about under promising and over delivering. And I really live by that. I like that slogan. It's for me, it's a real life thing. I think you should surprise people with how much value you provide for them. You shouldn't give them as much value as you think that they expect. You should shock them and surprise them.
Mm.
Like, oh my God, what did I do to deserve this? How often does that happen? If I'm going to be perfectly frank with you, very rarely in my world. I mean, I have people, thousands of people that have been in my world that I've given a lot to, and a lot of them never give anything back. That's them, and and I bless them regardless. But for me, makes me feel good is when I can see somebody like actually think that, wow, I never expected this. Like, why are you doing this? Sometimes people are so suspicious, like what's his agenda? Like, why is he being so nice? Why not? Like,
Right.
that's in the Bible. Like, aren't we paying attention? Like, wouldn't this be in our best interest anyway? To just like, where's the negative in over delivering?
There's not really one. Yeah.
Right? I mean, you want to get rehired, you want to get the person to continue to retain you, over deliver. I mean, who wants somebody that just says, something, 5:00, got to go. And I've had that in the middle of emergencies. People are like, well, I get paid from 9 to 5. Like, well, we have an emergency. I know, but I'm not getting paid for that. Goodbye. Like, oh shit.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to throw another one in there now. You've been a part of teams before and led from the CMO position. So what's
And
your
CEO.
Okay, you were CEO.
CEO of the Seminar Center.
Got it. Yeah. So how do you build that team culture? How do you drive performance and help move the organization forward?
Well, I think you lead by example. At the end of the day, you don't necessarily want people to think that you're, a pusher of anything. Even for, you want to lead. You don't want to push. And so I think everybody relates to kindness. But some bosses think, well, I'm the boss, so I don't have to be kind. I don't have to be nice. I just got to get the work done. You can get those things done and be a nice guy as well. So I think everybody wants respect and everybody wants acknowledgement. In fact, they've done research that show people will often value, rewards, whether it's a title or whether it's, something else that's more so than they will value the money. So sometimes just giving somebody a better title will be and if people deserve it, then why not?
I agree. So that is super valuable. That was a selfish question, but where can people go to find out more and get more value from all that you have put out?
You can go to my website, EliMMarcus.com. That's EliMMarcus.com. People should come on my podcast because I interview people a lot smarter than me, from billionaires to world-class athletes to movie stars to #1 New York Times bestsellers to just smart people like the Austin Holmes of the world, who have a lot to offer. And they can watch me on YouTube. They can listen to me on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeart, any place where podcasts can be listened to. And social media, you can look me up as well. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn.
Awesome. All the things. Thank you, Eli. And it was a pleasure speaking with you today. And maybe we'll have to do this again sometime.
Let's do it again, my friend. We got a lot of things to accomplish in this world. The world's counting on us. Let's make it happen.